Well, well, well. Look who just stumbled into the most dangerous form of gratitude imaginable. Hello to the accidental savior, the one who never asked for this, the person who unknowingly rewrote their entire existence with one impulsive act of humanity. Something happened, didn't it? Something that began as instinct and ended as a blood contract you never signed but can't escape. You saved a life without understanding the weight that life carried. And now the entire underworld knows your name. Let's rewind for a moment. Back to when everything was ordinary. Back when you were just another face in the crowd, a civilian living quietly within the rules of a predictable little life. You had routines, safety, anonymity, the comfort of being nobody to everyone. Then in a single second, that illusion shattered. Maybe it was a car crash. Maybe someone collapsed in public. Maybe you interrupted an act of violence without thinking. Your hands moved before your brain could calculate the cost. You didn't see the tattoos at first, or the expensive watch half hidden beneath blood-soaked sleeves. You didn't notice the scars that whispered stories your mind couldn't yet comprehend. You didn't see the black SUVs parked nearby, men in dark suits watching silently, phones pressed to their ears as they reported to someone whose name makes governments nervous. All you saw was a human being in crisis. And your instinct, that reckless, beautiful instinct that refuses to coexist with suffering, took control. You acted. You stopped the bleeding. You called for help. You stayed when every survival instinct screamed at you to run. And then those eyes opened, eyes that had watched men beg for mercy, eyes that had ordered executions with a single nod, eyes that locked onto yours. And in that instant, everything changed. You became the one who saved the unsavable, who showed mercy to someone the world believed incapable of it. You became a debt holder in a world where debts are paid not with money, but with blood, loyalty, and silence. Congratulations. You just became untouchable in the most terrifying way possible. Here's what no one tells you about that moment, what you couldn't have known when you made that choice. The man you saved wasn't just some criminal or a name buried in a federal database. He's an architect of shadows, a king ruling an empire built on fear and respect. His word is law in places where the actual law dares not go. He's the kind of man who can erase entire bloodlines with a phone call, reroute shipments worth more than nations with a single text, and whose protection is more valuable than any insurance ever written. And now he owes you everything. Not gratitude, not a thank you, not a cash reward that could make this even. In his world, when someone saves your life without knowing who you are or asking for anything in return, that debt becomes infinite. You didn't save him for money. You saved him because it was right. And that's what makes it dangerous. You didn't save him for recognition or power. You saved him because somewhere deep inside, your soul still carries that dangerous, untamable spark called humanity. And that makes you more valuable than any soldier in his army, more trustworthy than any advisor at his table, and more protected than any fortress he commands. They're watching you now. Have you noticed? Not with suspicion or hostility, but with something far more unsettling: reverence. Those men in tailored suits who always seem to appear wherever you go, they're not tailing you, they're guarding you. That car that lingers a few vehicles behind isn't surveillance, it's a moving shield ensuring that nothing touches you. Those strangers who nod at you in coffee shops, who subtly make way when you pass, who somehow know your name before you speak it, they've been told you are under the protection of forces that don't answer to badges or governments. The cruel beauty of your situation is that you can't refuse it. You can't just wake up tomorrow and reclaim your old life, your anonymity, your safety through invisibility. That version of you died the moment your hands met his blood. When you chose compassion over survival, you were marked not with ink, but with something far more permanent. A debt written in the ledger of the underworld. And here's the truth about that debt. It doesn't fade, it grows. Every day you wake up unharmed, every night you sleep in peace, every time chaos passes you by, that's the debt being repaid. You want to know what's really happening behind closed doors? In rooms you'll never enter, in conversations whispered in languages you'll never understand. Your name has been added to a list, a very short list. A list of people who are completely off limits to every operation, every territorial war, every act of vengeance, calculated in the dark. There are families who've lived this life for generations who don't have the kind of protection you now possess. Soldiers who've bled and killed for years who would trade everything for the immunity you earned in a single, unthinking moment of mercy. But this is where it gets interesting, where your life begins to twist into something you couldn't have imagined even in your wildest dreams. The protection surrounding you isn't passive. It's not just a shield keeping danger away, it's an active force reshaping your world. That promotion that seemed to fall into your lap, that legal issue that quietly vanished, that person who was making your life miserable but suddenly relocated to another city, you think that's coincidence? Do you really believe the universe just decided to reward you right after you saved a man whose enemies have enemies of their own? No. That's the debt being paid in movements you'll never witness, in decisions made by unseen hands to ensure your path remains clear. And the man himself, the one you saved, he's not some distant phantom watching from the shadows. He's studying you, observing how you carry this new reality you never asked for. He sees how you're coping with the invisible weight of protection, how you move through the world, knowing your single act of compassion permanently rerouted your destiny. And what he sees only confirms what he sensed the moment your eyes met, that you're different, that you're not driven by greed, fear, or self-interest like most people, that your core resonates on a frequency so rare in his world, it borders on legend. So now we arrive at the real question, the one that matters most. What happens next? Because this story, your story, is only just beginning. That debt he owes you, it's not the kind that gets settled and forgotten. It's alive. It evolves, shifts, and takes on a shape neither of you can fully control. He's going to test you, not through violence or intimidation, but through temptation. He'll present you with opportunities that defy logic, access to power you never imagined, and answers to problems you never believed had solutions. Doors will open. Doors that lead into rooms where decisions shaping millions of lives are made quietly over whiskey and whispered promises. And that's where your real trial begins. Can you stand in those rooms without losing yourself? Can you accept help without becoming dependent? Can you exist in this new world without letting it reshape you into something unrecognizable? Because here's the trap. Not one he's setting, but one that power itself always lays. Once you get a taste of it, seeing your problems vanish effortlessly, watching obstacles dissolve before you even face them, it hooks you. Once you feel what it's like to live under a protection so absolute that fear no longer exists, returning to ordinary vulnerability feels unbearable. Once you experience the kind of respect that comes from being associated with untouchable influence, normal life starts to feel dull, small, and painfully mundane. That's the real danger. Not death, not betrayal, but transformation. The slow, quiet erosion of who you are until you become exactly what this world creates, another version of the people you swore you'd never be. Right now they're watching you from the shadows, men and women who've bet fortunes and lives on what kind of person you'll become. Some think you'll play the game, that you'll use the debt to your advantage, trade it for favors, and become another powerful piece on the board. Others believe you'll try to reject it, distance yourself, attempt the impossible, to return to anonymity. They laugh at that idea because once you're inside this circle, there's no going back. But there's a third group, the one he belongs to, the ones who believe you might do something no one anticipates, that you'll accept the debt but not let it corrupt you, that you'll walk through the darkness and still keep your light. And that's the possibility that fascinates him most. Because if you manage that, it means his survival wasn't just luck, it was grace. It means he was saved by something his world has long forgotten how to recognize: genuine humanity. Understand this. Your position isn't one of captivity. You're not a pawn, not a puppet being controlled from the shadows. You're being protected, yes, but more importantly, you're being observed. He's watching for potential. He didn't build an empire by misjudging character. He didn't survive decades in a world where trust can kill by being a poor reader of souls. When he looks at you, he sees something his world desperately lacks, a person guided by principle, not profit. Someone whose actions come from instinct, not calculation, and that, more than anything, is what truly unsettles him. You represented something entirely foreign to his world, an act without agenda, a moment of pure instinct, untainted by gain, that made you more valuable than any soldier in his ranks, any lawyer in his pocket, or any politician on his payroll. But let's get darker. Let's talk about what happens if you decide you've had enough. If you wake up one morning and choose to vanish, a new city, a new name, a quiet, anonymous life where none of this ever happened. Do you really think that's possible? Do you think a man who commands territories larger than nations, whose influence threads through governments and corporations, whose network stretches from street enforcers to senators, couldn't find you anywhere on earth within hours? But here's the unsettling truth. He wouldn't come after you with anger. He'd come with concern. Because to him, your attempt to run wouldn't be rebellion. It would be misunderstanding. A sign that you don't grasp the magnitude of the gift you've been given. You think you saved his life, but you have no idea how many times he's saving yours every single day. The business partner who planned to betray you, handled. The colleague spreading lies, silenced. The threat you were unknowingly walking toward next month, neutralized before you ever saw it coming. The debt isn't being paid in grand gestures or cinematic rescues. It's paid in the quiet absence of disaster, in enemies you'll never meet, in chaos that never reaches your door. He's not just guarding your present. He's securing your future, clearing your path in ways you could never arrange, not even with limitless money or influence. And this is where the real test begins. Not of morality, but of mind. How do you live knowing your safety isn't your own doing, that your peace is manufactured by unseen hands? Does that knowledge comfort you or suffocate you? Do you feel gratitude or the creeping dread of dependency? That's the real price of your salvation. Not servitude, not loyalty, psychological transformation. He wants to see if you can live with the paradox, protected yet free, indebted yet unbroken. If you can carry the weight of knowing what's been done for you without collapsing under it. If you can stand between the ordinary and the untouchable without losing your sense of self. And then there will come a day when you see him again, not in an ambulance or a moment of chaos, but in a place of his choosing at a time of his design. You'll receive an invitation, not a demand, to dinner, to a conversation, to something that feels disarmingly normal. It won't be about repayment or obligation. It will be about acknowledgement. Two human beings sitting across from each other, bound by an act that changed both of their lives in ways neither fully understands. In that meeting, you'll see him as he truly is. Not the bleeding stranger you once saved, not the myth the world fears, but a man who, against all odds, survived when he shouldn't have. And for the first time, you'll understand that maybe, just maybe, what you saved that day wasn't just his life, but a fragment of his humanity too. He owes every breath he takes to your single, reckless, beautiful moment of compassion. A split-second decision made in a world that punishes decency, mocks empathy, and devours those who still dare to care. You didn't stop to think. You didn't weigh the risks. You just acted. And that act, the one you can barely remember now without questioning your own sanity, became the axis on which two lives turned. His survival is no longer his own doing. It's a direct extension of you. Every inhale he takes, Every heartbeat that continues inside that rebuilt chest exists because of your refusal to look away when everyone else did. And when you meet again, and you will, he won't ask the questions most people would. He won't ask what you want or what you need or what he can give you in return. He'll ask something far more unsettling. Who are you? Who is the person capable of such irrational mercy? Who is the mind that acts before it calculates? The soul that reaches out even when it has everything to lose. He'll want to know what drives you, what hidden frequency your conscience operates on that made you step into chaos instead of walking past it. Because in his world, nobody acts without motive. Nobody helps without expecting a return. Nobody risks their safety for a stranger. And yet you did. Your answer, however you give it, will shape the rest of your story. It will determine whether the debt you carry becomes a burden or a blessing, whether the protection surrounding you becomes a suffocating prison or a powerful platform, whether your unintended heroism turns into a curse you can never escape or the beginning of something larger than yourself. Because here's the truth about saving a powerful man. You don't just save his life, you save his faith. People like him, men who live knee-deep in shadows, lose belief long before they lose blood. After decades of betrayal, violence, and deceit, their hearts become armored fortresses. They stop trusting in sincerity. They start to believe that goodness is just another weapon, polished, disguised, and waiting for its moment to strike. They see kindness as strategy, generosity as manipulation, empathy as performance. Nothing is real. Everything is a transaction. Every handshake hides a blade. Every favor carries a cost. That's how he survived, by assuming purity is just another mask. Until you shattered that belief. You didn't know who he was. Didn't care about his power or his reputation. Didn't ask for anything in return. You just saw a human being bleeding out and stepped forward when instinct screamed to stay back. You acted out of the one resource his world had forgotten existed, genuine humanity. And that act cracked open something in him that decades of violence had sealed shut. You reminded him that goodness still exists, not as a myth, not as a weakness, but as something real and immediate. You proved that in a brutal, cynical world, some people still move from the heart, not the head. That reminder was worth more to him than loyalty, more than obedience, more than money. It was priceless. You didn't just save his body. You resurrected his soul. You reconnected him to the part of himself that remembered what it meant to feel. And because of that, he will protect you. Not out of duty, not out of obligation, but out of reverence. You saved his humanity when he didn't think he had any left. And for that, he'll guard yours with a devotion that borders on sacred. You became a living symbol of something his empire, his enemies, even his allies no longer believe in. The idea that light can still survive in darkness. But saving a man like him doesn't come without consequences. Now you're entering a new kind of war, a quiet, invisible psychological one. The battleground is your own mind. The people closest to you, your family, your friends, your co-workers, will start to sense the shift even before you fully understand it yourself. They'll feel something different in your presence, though they won't be able to name it. A weight, a calmness that unsettles them. The kind of confidence that only comes from knowing things other people can't even imagine. You'll notice it in their eyes, the flicker of curiosity, the trace of unease. They'll wonder what changed in you, what secret you're hiding, what invisible armor you seem to wear now. They'll ask questions, at first playfully, then persistently. What happened? Why do you seem so calm lately? Why do you act like nothing can touch you anymore? And you'll want to tell them the truth, to unburden yourself, to confess that your life was rewritten by an act of accidental salvation. But how do you explain that you're protected by a man whose name is spoken in whispers? That unseen forces now move around you, ensuring you remain untouched by the chaos that consumes others. That the danger you once feared no longer applies to you because you're part of an unspoken code of protection few even know exists. You can't tell them. So you'll lie. You'll smile. You'll say you've grown, that you found peace, that you've changed your outlook on life. They'll nod, satisfied with that simple illusion, because they have no framework for the truth, no context for what it means to be marked as sacred by the underworld. They won't understand that you've been folded into a hidden hierarchy, a silent kingdom where your safety is law and where your existence has become a matter of honor. But not everyone will react with warmth. Some will sense your new gravity and feel threatened by it. The jealous ones, the competitive ones, the ones who always measured themselves against you, they'll sense a power they can't explain and resent you for it. They'll test boundaries. They'll whisper behind your back. They'll try to reassert control by undermining you, provoking you, attempting to drag you back into the smallness they still live in. And that's when you'll start to see the protection in motion. You'll notice how the ones who try to harm you always seem to stumble first, how their plans collapse under strange coincidences, how conflicts dissolve before they reach you. You'll watch as dangerous moments, accidents, confrontations, betrayals unfold just out of reach, as if something invisible is rearranging the world in your favor. It won't be loud. It won't be cinematic. It'll be subtle, surgical, precise. The quiet orchestration of a promise being kept by someone who owes you everything. Every time a threat disappears before you see it, every time a door opens at the exact right moment, every time you narrowly avoid chaos without realizing it, that's the debt being paid. Not through violence or spectacle, but through prevention, through silence, through the absence of disaster. You'll begin to understand that you are living inside a web of unseen hands, a network that operates for you, not against you. And when you finally meet him again, when he looks you in the eye and asks who you really are, you'll realize the truth. You didn't just save his life that day. You resurrected something ancient inside him.